Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to iTrain Asia's and Harrison Assessment's webinar today on the topic of how to hire the right candidate the first time. And today we're also joined by Jimmy Yong. But before I'm going to give the floor to Jimmy, I'm going to briefly introduce the procedure of the webinar and also iTrain Asia and the micro degree that we have started. So if you have any questions, you can write them in the comments section on the Facebook Live on your right-hand side or at the bottom of the screen. And also, we will be addressing the questions that had been sent in prior to the webinar. So we will first address those questions, and if there is sufficient time, we will address also the questions that were sent in during the webinar. And yes, if you have any questions or concerns that you would like to ask privately, you can always email them to info@itrain.com.mi. And to read more about our micro degree program, you can visit our website www.itrainasia.com/microdegree. And I have added the link also in the comments section. So about iTrain Asia. So iTrain Asia is supporting digital transformation in Asia. And we are pioneers and leaders in tech learning. And at iTrain, we believe in two core principles: the power of technology to shape the future and help us build a better world, and that love of learning is a source of human ingenuity and well-being. Our goal, which is backed by government and academia, is to fast-track Asian businesses with the latest technology applications and know-how. These are some of the courses that iTrain currently is offering. So we have mobile development, blockchain, data science, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, fintech, digital marketing, and cybersecurity courses, which are provided both online and face-to-face. And these are some of the clients that we have had the chance to help them empower their businesses. And as you can see, they're from many strategic sectors, both finance, technology, industry, and manufacturing. And now about the micro degree, which has been established in partnership with Asia University. And this is a new normal degree path during a new normal environment for those who choose a differentiation and future skilling their career path. The AAU micro degree is a degree that adopts live industry case studies to secure you live industry job opportunities. And yes, so at the moment we have iTrain Asia is rolling out their certificates in over 26 countries in both Asia and also Central Asia. And Asia University is an international university in Subang Jaya, Malaysia, that offers on-campus blended and online learning mode programs. It is an institution set in Asia, by Asians, and for Asia, founded by the Asia Cooperation Dialogue Foreign Ministers. Asia Cooperation Dialogue is represented by the foreign ministers of 35 Asia-Pacific countries, and it aims to promote cooperation in areas like education, through projects such as Asia University at the Islamabad 2005 and Doha 2006 Asia Cooperation Dialogue ministerial meetings. And the micro degrees that are being rolled out at the moment are being full stack developer, data engineer, UX designer, and deep learning engineer. All of the graduates also receive a micro degree digital badge that they can add to their LinkedIn profiles. And the micro degree program structure starts with a screening process with the application online of the candidate, entrance tests, interviews by employers, candidates signing commitment letters, and the psychometric test, which Jimmy will be sharing more about later on. And after that, the employer issues conditional letter of offer. That is followed by the onboarding process where the student and candidate visits a company working environment, meets a team, is part of the staff sharing and e-learning. Then there is a class which inhibits the lessons, tutorials, exercises, projects, presentation, industry visits, industry talks, and certification exam. Then it is followed by the project, which is a live simulation project with hands-on project package that links to the live data and has a real-world project. And finally, if the candidate has been successful at all these steps, he or she is secured a job with a 1 year free maintenance and upgrade, and after 1 year, 30% off for 5 years. So if any questions about the micro degrees, Mr. Eric Hu, Mr. Deneb, or Mr. MK Chang can be contacted. And that is it about iTrain Asia and the micro degree program. And now I will give the floor to Jimmy to brief us on Harrison assessment.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to get on board and speak to our guest here today. And thank you very much, Elizabeth. And before I start on, I think I have a few thousand questions from Elizabeth at the moment and a couple more thousand from the floor. And before I get to the questions, give me a minute to quickly, I guess, introduce the company that's behind me and who I am. And quickly, I've been with this business for quite a few years now and really spent about 20 plus years in the space of people development. Sticking me around to Middle East, Shanghai, China, and India, and Singapore, and some other parts of the world. But it's always been a passion of developing people that takes me to this space itself. And behind me, of course, the organization. I'm going to pop this up right now, if I can. And here we go. All right. So OmniView Consulting, that's the business and firm that I'm leading right now. And this is the team that's behind driving capability for performance with partners out there and clients and various organizations in different industries. And really our passion here is about developing that culture of people development and that drives organizational performance. But what's really interesting about our business is the tool that we leverage on to do our work. It is Harrison Assessments, and it is a tool that has now more than 2 million users, and we have 25 plus years of research, languages that is continue to grow. In fact, I think it's not even 39 today. It's probably in a region of 42, 43 languages in terms of the questionnaire, and reports are of course churned out in the various languages too. Currently, I think about 23, and we are in 61 countries, and there are 650 job success formulas, and I'll talk about that in a short while. And of course, behind this tool is Dr. Dan Harrison, our CEO, with a PhD in organizational psychology. It's a very interesting background because he has a background in mathematics, and then his counseling psychology comes in. So really, it is a huge advantage that he sees this from in terms of numbers, and at the same time from a people organizational psychology perspective. Ultimately, Harrison assessments have been deployed and used with organizations in the whole employee life cycle, talent analytics, right from acquisition, selecting the right candidate, right to talent development, employee engagement, and when we look at how do you build your bench strength and capability for the future. So really across the stream, it is all about acquiring talent, developing your talent, leading your talent, and engaging your talent. And this is what it is and the organization that's behind me. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and let us get back to the screen. Okay, I hear that there are quite some great, interesting questions that we have.
Yes, we do have. We did receive quite a few questions from the attendees that registered before. And so the first question that I would like to ask to you, Jimmy, is why should employers implement psychometric tests in their hiring process?
Okay, wow. Why? Absolutely, you have to do it. It is an additional tool that really helps, I think, employers or talent acquisition people identify who is the right candidate. I acknowledge there are great talents out there in terms of the way you interviews and the way you're hiring and looking for your potential employee, or even finding a way to develop and place them. A psychometric tool like Harrison Assessments provide you that additional advantage in terms of psychometric insights that allows you to then make a more effective decision. Hence, it does add more value, streamlines your time in terms of making decision, and allows you to make a more robust decision when selecting the right candidate.
Okay, great. Very insightful opinion you just gave to us. And another question that is quite interesting is how do you prevent deception in the hiring process?
Well, you just have to make me sit next to them. Well, I think that's a big question for a lot of psychometric tests or assessments out there. The question behind it is really the authentication of the results and the reliability of those tools, right? The Harrison tool itself has what we call the Harrison test authentication methods. It includes ranking, the preference focus, the paradox methodology, its technological detection. I mean, it really looks at 4 different highly effective methods that prevents and detect deception. Quickly, I think in layman terms, it looks at how consistent you are in selecting those preferences as you complete the questionnaire. It is a work preference questionnaire. There's never a right or wrong or good or bad answer. It looks at the consistency in terms of the answer, the time you take. It can detect with its technology if there is an attempt to deceive the assessment itself.
So the next question would be to you, Jimmy, about the job success formula.
Sure.
What is it, and how can
Oh,
employers find out the best for them?
The job success formula is actually a unique value proposition within Harrison Assessments itself. Like many assessment tools, I mean, there is a measure of somewhat skills or behaviors, or some of them would measure personality traits. What we bring additional to the table is the ability of our assessment to design a custom role, each and every role that and that's the power, which means, for example, when we want to hire a person in a sales role, we're able to define what are the best traits that drives performance for the role, what are the desired traits, and what are some of what we call traits to avoid, traits that we don't want to see for a particular role. And hence the unique feature we have. This is what we call traits assessment. They are put against this template, and we can then see the potential fit for them within this role or this template. That's the power it brings. So it's not a generic assessment. It is a very customized and it's role specific that drives potential high performance outcome.
Okay, so there is such a thing, and employers definitely should learn more about it and implement it in their hiring process to get the best candidates, I assume. Okay, and tell me more about the Harrison
Absolutely.
assessment tests and what factors exactly are measured in these tests.
The Harrison assessment test actually measures 175 factors, and it's pretty amazing. Actually, there's quite a few factors that it is taken into consideration as one completes the assessment. The beauty about it, the assessment takes 20 to 25 minutes, and of course, it's done within the various languages that one is comfortable in. Whilst we label those factors as what we call traits or behaviors, 175 unique traits and elements. There is things like, is someone open and reflective? Is someone friendly? frank and diplomatic, outgoing, authoritative. We even get now to elements like being precise, a sense of urgency, perseverance, and resilience. Is pretty powerful because the range and the detail of the traits that's being harnessed from this one single assessment provides that really in-depth analysis and a manager or hiring supervisor could use to leverage and what we call upscale their interview process.
Okay, so for example, what kind of questions would be asked to understand the perseverance of a candidate?
I can tell you that. That's the trick behind the assessment, right? But I'm sure. I'm sure. I think that's a question that many interviewers online has stress tolerance, right, Elizabeth? Whether would you have a sense of urgency? Do you have the competency called learning agility? Of course, what this assessment does, the assessment will then allow you to look in the window of this specific individual. Does he or she carry this potential DNA, if I may call that, set of DNA or traits with him or her? And then you start to discover traits that you start to discover traits that they don't necessarily use at all. So it's never really weak or bad. It's just potentially these traits, they are there, inherently they are there, but they're not being used. With this insight, that's when you're able to find out a little bit more about what drives Elizabeth. If perseverance is a trait that she doesn't have, is there a complementary trait? We always believe traits don't work in silo. They are pairs, if not in any other traits. So the yin and the yang, the
Okay, great. Yeah, so another question to you would be how accurate is the Harrison assessment test?
Okay, all right. I just got a note from Nick. I think there was a slight disconnection there. Would you like
Yeah,
me to
that's
kind of backtrack on that earlier question, Elizabeth?
would be, yeah, that would be great. That's why I was thinking, if is it only my side that is a bit lagging behind, but yeah, seems that I wasn't the only one. So it would be really great if you could do that.
Okay, all right, no worries. I think your question was what are the unique traits that we measure? What are factors that we look at?
Yeah.
175 unique traits, and we look at things like carry a trait called diplomatic? Do you even have a trait called sense of really interesting? That would be something that most people would not think of. That would be an important trait to look at, especially if leaders or someone fits into the role of change management. They're leading a transformation team. Something like sense of urgency will be interesting to look at. You asked about perseverance. Yeah, we do measure a trait called perseverance itself. But what do you do? Does the assessment teach you how to ask those questions? No, the assessment will harness those insights for you. It will bring out and tell us whether Elizabeth carries those, would you carry those traits with you, those DNA? And from there, you're able to then find out what drives Elizabeth and what are your strongest traits. And possibly what are some of the traits that you don't necessarily, but are these traits creating a performance issue? All right? I hope that's better, Elizabeth.
Yeah, we heard you slightly better, but there's still some connection issues. So if you could maybe perhaps try to
We'll keep our
close
fingers crossed.
other windows that are, yeah, if you could close other windows on your internet browser, perhaps that could help.
Yeah.
But
Okay. There's nothing else on the laptop, but this is it.
oh,
But we'll try to
okay.
proceed. All right.
Yes, let's try to proceed. Okay, so you just mentioned the factors that are measured in the HA test. And now I would like to ask you, how accurate is the HA test and what
Um,
determines the accuracy?
we have up to 85% accuracy, and that's I personally believe it is 85% accurate, and we don't say it's 100%, as we are always dealing with a human potential factor here, and there's always that little room of grayness when you deal with an individual. But 85% accuracy is pretty high for an assessment, and we've always proven ourselves in terms of when we match our results against an individual.
Okay, great. Yeah, and for those who have just recently joined, so we are joined today by Jimmy Ong, who is an expert on how to hire the right candidate the first time. And we're
Mm,
discussing, exactly, and we're discussing about Harrison Assessment Tool, which is a psychometric test that allows employers to ease their hiring process, and which is also implemented in iTrain Asia's micro degree certification program. So, about which I will again speak briefly on at the end of our
sure.
Q&A session.
All right.
Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
let's
Next
continue,
question.
Jimmy. Yeah, the next
Yeah.
question is what is the success story of Harrison assessment tests, and are there any case studies that have been done?
Well, I think our success stories prove in itself with the wonderful, I would say, the wonderful pies that we have out there with our clients. We recently completed a selection of a CEO role position for a large conglomerate. And it was leveraged. And one of the very key exercise that was done in that selection um, was done with our Harrison assessments tool itself. And the best part is the top candidates that was recommended. All top candidates went through our assessment, and the final candidate that got selected was one of our selected recommended candidates. So that's one success story we have out there that is pretty amazing, and in itself, it just proves that I think when talent acquisition professionals are open to using an assessment tool like Harrison Assessments, it just really complements the experience they bring to the table. It does not replace a talent acquisition's role. It doesn't replace that. It just further adds value to what they do. It's a very strategic value that they bring to the table with the assessment. All right. And another great example is lots of graduates out there, and we worked with the bank and to look for their top graduate trainees, and 16,000 applicants. Pretty amazing. 16,000 applicants. They had to select it within a month. I think for those of you who are doing recruitment today, to even look at 100 applicants, that takes weeks. To look at 16,000, that is mind blowing. But with the platform that we have, with the tool that we have, it was a hands off approach. It was seamless. They could finally interview 50, they could finally select 20. That's by using Harrison Assessment as a tool to augment, augmenting the process they have, bring value to the process they have. All right.
Yeah, that's a great success story, truly. And one question that we received prior, you did briefly mention it already for in answering the job success formula.
Mm.
But so, what criteria should employers look into while considering the fresh graduates?
Well, they must be as good looking as me. I think that's it certainly is an important question to have. I think put aside the qualification they bring, and put aside the degree or the technicality that one is looking for. Today we hear the industry talking about soft skills, attitude, we talk about behaviors, they talk about ability to stretch, agility. Communication is important as a skill. The problem solving mindset that you bring to the table is important. I think your eagerness as a graduate or a soon to be graduate to explore and take risks are important elements, not to mention many more, right? And to do that, I think my advice to employers are, first of all, do not be confined to first degree honors and your second class and your first class. Do not be confined to that. There's a lot more beneath the iceberg. We all talk about that. I think there's a lot more that one brings to the table with their right skills and attitude. Hence, knowing what behaviors that you want to look for, and many of you know that for sure. I think, Elizabeth, we all know what kind of behavior attitude we want for a person. The question is, how do I assess for these behaviors? It is a psychometric tool like Harrison that can help you do that. Our tool is a behavioral assessment tool. It is not a personality assessment tool. Hence, there is a slight difference there, and you're not looking at someone's introvertness or extrovertness. It really looks at the skills you bring to the table for a specific role.
Okay, so that's really a good reason for employers to implement psychometric tests in their hiring process.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, then the next question, which is rather interesting, is that the interview attitude and work attitude differs. So how can we filter out those who are good in interviews but bad at work?
Well, I look at this as you're buying apples in a grocery store. I mean, the apple looks really pretty and the apple looks red. And, you take the apple back and sometimes you don't quite know, if it's really that sweet, right? It is hard. There isn't a real science to finding this out. Yeah, even I can assess that this person has the propensity to be a great employee, has the potential to be a great employee in a specific role. There's so many more things that in the work environment that makes that happen. How one does not perform in a role after you putting through hours of steps and interviews to get the best of the best. I think an employer needs to also be mindful about the organization's responsibility to make it work for the talent. If you have the best football player, but if you don't have the right coaching techniques, you don't have the right feel, you don't have the right coaches to take you through the right dietary plans. I think a good football player is only as good on paper or on previous experience. So I really implore and ask employees to look at also what is my role as an employer to ensure that the talent continues to bring the right values at work.
Yeah, that is a very good point, that it is not a one-way street.
It is not, unfortunately.
Yes. So both, not only the employee has to perform, the employer also has to do their job in ensuring that it's a good environment for the candidate.
It is a mutual agreement when you sign the contract of work. It is mutual.
True. And we had a rather long question, which maybe not a question, which started out as a description. So I would like to read this to you. So yes, so one of the attendees wrote in that it is very challenging in getting the right candidate, especially for the position that requires technical skills, such as IT personnel. So we always take longer process in hiring IT personnel due to shortage of qualified candidates. I think the location is one at the issue, as my company is located at Penang, and there's a lot of tech companies in Penang, such as Dell and Intel. Candidates' experience and skills doesn't always match with salary expectations, and sometimes we have no choice but to get a candidate who closely matches with the requirement. And this leads to another challenge. Part is to balance the pay between the new person and existing team when they're having some technical skills, but the new person with higher pay. Yeah, so
Well,
your
that's
view
a
on this?
narrative, isn't it? That's a narrative in itself.
Yeah,
Wow. Fully loaded question with multiple other sub questions in it.
yeah,
Um, I think I'm going to answer this from backwards, backwards up. I think if you're really taking someone in your second best because you really feel you have no choice, I personally think that's the wrong decision to make. You're then opening doors to many other potential issues coming from. Don't settle for second best if you think that does not meet the work requirements. Performance ultimately is important. All right. Um, Talents don't come cheap. Is never easy. We can't not pay for good talents. I personally always believe it is important to remunerate people accordingly, fairly, and you don't need to pay skyrocket prices, but I think it needs to be a fair remuneration, right? If we're going to pay so much for a certain service, we are expecting in return something else. So vice versa. So that's important. Now, how do you know if you're still getting the right person? What amongst all you're having other challenges? I mean, it, you can't do much. Okay, location is an issue. It is an issue. Always location, even if it's a great location, there's no transportation. That's also an issue. There's no food access, right? Food is important. That's also an issue. Everyone has different needs. Put all that aside, I think primary concern here and question should be, have you scoped out the job correctly? Sometimes it is an action that we do automatically. We take an existing job description, we cut and paste, we copy and paste, and that becomes the job description for years and years and years and years to come, right? And we change either the date itself or we change the reporting supervisor itself. So one, we need to scope the job out right in terms of deliverables. Number two, I think what we don't do a lot of times correctly, whilst we have targets and KPIs, we don't correctly identify what are the behavioral traits and insights that someone needs to bring with him or her, the right set of competencies to be able to perform in that job. The third point would be I also I know I'm going on with this because it's a wonderful question. Is
yeah.
what is your organization's culture that is attracting the right candidates or not attracting the right candidate? That's an important question to ask. So multiple facets to look at, but to at least help talent acquisition professionals, line managers, HR people, your recruiters. Um, it is again an assessment tool like us, our Harrison assessment, that will still provide you an additional insight. One of the things and the reason why I say that, we even provide insights to the cost motivation of a specific individual. What, Elizabeth, what's your cost motivation in life that is making you think about this job? How can this job be aligned with your own personal enthusiasm in terms of your own personal goals? Uh, that's really what's interesting about Harrison Sessa, because as much as we say professional life and personal life is separate, in reality it is not. We all one. So how, what it affects you at home affects you at work. What affects you at work affects you at home. The beauty about Harrison, it gives you both the insights into both worlds, and that's the power we bring to the workplace, and ensuring that you have the candidate in front of you, not the best degree, not from the best pedigree, not with the best experience, but really the hardest to do is with the right set of behaviors.
Okay, yes. And about
Cool.
getting the right IT personnel, I have to add again about the micro degree program that I train
Yes.
Asia is rolling
Yep.
out, where
There
we
you
are
go.
teaching full stack developers, data engineers, UX designers, and deep learning engineers. So employers who are looking for such candidates, please visit our website at itrainasia.com/microdegree, and you can inquire
Okay.
more about that there. But yes, thank you, Jimmy, very much for your very yeah the very deep answer to the question, which
I,
has
I, yeah,
yeah
I love to take some more questions. Actually, it is really a topic that's at heart. I do
yeah
see one from MK Chung here.
yeah.
Should the Harrison assessment tool be used in optimizing the outcome benefits to help talent hunting organizations in job matching profiles to the right person or matching the person to the right job profile? After these two views, as these two views are different, and this looks at need versus want perspective. Oh, MK Chong, that's a fully loaded question again, but of course, all these are, isn't it? The beauty about this, I'm glad you asked this too. We've done this for our clients uh, both ways. We've looked at one, matching a candidate to a certain profile, of course, that is like even not just at recruitment point, even promoting someone into a new role, absolutely. So that's a great way to ensure that, for example, Elizabeth, you're fully ready to take on a director's role, a director in learning, for example, right? You got to ensure that you carry the right set of behaviors aside from the technicality of creating learning content, but it is the mindset and the behaviors you bring. What we have done for our clients and through the system for a client that once they have it, they are also able to search within a system of all the employees. If I have a vacant role, who is out there? There's 1,000 of them who fits this job straight away, who fits this role straight away. Right? So, this is what we say this is really talent management. I'm able to use my system today to check these are my qualifications internally. Who are my employees who meet this qualification? So, very much needs and versus want, but it's really both at the same time. How do you balance the need and what you want? Whether what you want is an important need. It is really interesting, but at least an assessment at Harrison, first of all, it is really filtering the DNA. We look at it, it is like a blood test. You take a blood test. Now, at least I know, whilst, for example, I look fine, I look healthy, but it's all pure surface. But what would my blood test report tells me could be a different story. And that's how we see Harrison assessment. It's truly about getting the insights to your medical blood test.
Such a great and insightful answer. Thank you, Jimmy.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, one more
Oh,
question from MK. I have one last that I have that was sent in before, but if you would like to
okay.
prefer to answer MK's question first,
Let's
depends
look at
on you.
MK's question first.
Okay.
Thankfully, I read English really well. I should get MK to write in Chinese, which I don't read. What is your opinion in institutes or universities for higher learning to use Harrison Substance tool in widely manner for pre-workforce human capital during the early learning experience, selecting the right skills for the right job role in the future career, so that this can be a solution in bridging the gaps in job skills mismatched with the wrong workforce. And subsequently, these new wave of future workforce can continuously reassess and improve their careers building journey. Oh, wow. Okay. Um, nice. MK, we do have a capability within a system that does career development and career options. We are today in itself, we have several university clients that uses this to profile their incoming students, graduates, or university students, and they profile them at point of entry, and they also profile them at point of finishing and completing the degree. So the point of entry, the purpose is to ensure realizing what are some of the skill gaps they bring with them for that specific degree program they're getting into. So if someone is getting into a communication program degree, if it shows that they have some opportunities for development in their communication skills and their people collaboration skills, then that's where the university can start working with them along the way. uh, that's one way of doing it. The other thing that has been deployed for our assessment is potentially, Elizabeth, if you're graduating, you like to know which are your best potential career you can get into with a set of skills you bring, aside from your technicalities, the qualification itself. Do you have the right soft skills that a lot of organizations are talking about today? There has been many researches and articles that says that graduates today in Malaysia don't bring with them enough the right set of behaviors, attitudes, skill sets, minds, the problem solving mindset, their communication skills are weak, their analytical skills are weak. So with Harrison assessments, once you do it, isn't it amazing you can attach on top of your CV? I have been Harrison assessed, and the assessment tells me that these are my strongest traits, isn't it? Rather than at an interview, Elizabeth, tell me what are your strongest traits. I'll be like, I like people. That's a bit tough to answer. You can whip it out and say, according to this assessment, which is a validated assessment, my top 5 traits are analytical, collaboration, enforcing, optimism, and precise. Wow, isn't that nice? And especially if you're going into maybe an IT role, if your traits are like precise, analytical, innovative, you're very much questioning things. That's fantastic, isn't it? Right? So that's how it's been applied. Yeah, MK. I hope that's answered your question. Do you have in your back another long question?
But that was a very insightful answer. Thank you, Jimmy.
All right. Elizabeth, I understand there's one more question with you.
Yeah, so the question is very practical for the HR people. So, what are the right questions to ask in an interview to get a highly
Okay, Elizabeth, are you still there?
I'm doing that. Yeah, I'm connecting. Okay, I'm back. Thank you, guys. I got lost in the
Yeah.
internet world.
Okay. All right. The question, are there a set of interview questions? Is that what you were saying, Elizabeth,
Yeah,
for the
what are
HR?
the right questions to ask in an interview to get a highly intelligent, motivated, and self-driven employee? So, you as an expert in the industry, I would highly appreciate your tips on this question.
Well, there's only one answer to this, right? You hire Jimmy Ong. I will get you the best candidate. I'll do all the questioning for you. No, that is an important question. I think a lot of times, sometimes, as professional as we are in talent acquisition, sometimes we get lost, right? They're tough questions. I mean, the technical questions are easy to ask. Have years of experience, certificate in marketing, degree in IT. Those are easy to ask. It is sometimes we get lost in terms of is this person in IT very innovative, or are they creative in their work? Do they look at things from an analytical perspective? Those are tough questions to ask, very difficult, because of course, if I ask someone, Elizabeth, are you analytical? Very likely the answer is going to be yes. Right? No one's going to say no to that. Harrison assessments, in fact, actually provides a set of interview guide for each specific role. You use it for assessing the individual. That's the beauty about it. It's actually a behavioral event interview set of questions. So you get it from the system itself. These questions are unique to each and every individual for that specific role. They are not a generic set of questionnaires, and that's the power to Harrison assessments. providing talent acquisition people an additional tool that we lack. Not everyone does interview skills very well. It's not an easy thing to do. So definitely get to us if you want that interview guide.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jimmy, for your time. And
I
well,
see another question coming from one of our
oh,
guests, right?
that was the guest did send in the question already before. So thank you,
Ah,
Musaf,
okay.
for
All right.
doing being a great attendee and sending your questions in prior to the webinar so that they can be addressed in a timely manner.
Okay.
Yeah, so some of the attendees did not hear the start of the presentation. So, Jimmy, perhaps would you like to share again, or of course the people can watch the live video after it's done and start from the beginning to see the parts that they missed. But if you would
Sure.
just
I,
one
I
minute
think
briefly go over Harrison assessment.
sure. I think I don't need to flip up the slide. It was only a few pages. Harrison Assessments has been in the business for more than 30 years, really. We have 2 million plus clients and users who have used us. And we have also in the system 650 job success formula templates, which is fantastic. The assessment is done in 43 languages, and reports are printed in about 29 languages, one of those languages itself. The beauty about this assessment is it takes 20 minutes to complete, and it's only one-on-one assessment for various reports that possibly you want to use it for. We either use it for in the HR space, we like to call it the employee life cycle, acquisition, hiring people, developing people, looking at their performance. We're looking at leadership development and coaching, succession, talent management, and really ultimately engaging employees till they leave the organization. So Harrison assessment has been used in all that capacity. Reliability, it is a reliable test because there's an artificial intelligence behind it. If you try to cheat, I think especially people like us in HR, we love to try ways to wing the assessments. Not easy because there's a reliability tool behind it. And of course, accuracy of up to 85% accuracy in terms of this tool itself, right? Um, Really ease of use online on your mobile, on iPad. Yeah, that can be done anywhere, anytime, live. And your results, you'll be surprised that outcomes are generated, reports are AI churned and system generated. Immediately after completing assessment, reports are churned out within seconds. All right, there you go, Elizabeth. Hopefully that will give a quicker nutshell than the slides.
It did, and very many thanks to you, Jimmy. So yes, in today's webinar, we did go over the questions of why should employers implement psychometric tests in their hiring process? How can we prevent
Right.
deception? What is the job success formula? What factors are measured in the Harrison assessment tests, and how accurate are they? And
Mhm.
also, Jimmy gave us a success story about yes, about implementing the Harrison assessment tests. And an interesting question that we touched upon was about the interview attitude and when it differs with the work attitude, and how can we try
Yeah.
to prevent that.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
yes, many thanks, Jimmy, for giving the answers. And if you
Yeah.
did miss out on hearing the answers, you can watch the live video again, or also visit our website where all the answers will be published within the coming weeks.
Yeah, Elizabeth, if I can just have another 30 seconds, I think
Of
the
course.
intent here is, yeah, and the intent here is really to, I think, in partnering with iTrain, to also ensure that their candidates, their training um, is successful with placing the right people in programs. We no doubt, I think today we know people sometimes take up programs and degrees or qualifications because they have to. I think I'm very real about this. People are forced to take on a certain program and degree. But what we're trying to do is to also ensure that, like any job, when you get to a certain qualification, certain stream of, I think, industry like IT, especially what iTrain is doing. I think for you to be successful in IT, there are a certain set of behaviors and traits I think one should carry with them. Things like analytical, things like you need to have that creativity, persistence, and you like to experiment, being precise. Those are some traits that likely will give you success, very much success in anything you do, especially like in IT programs. So this is exactly what the tool can do for you, and we look forward to that. Working with people like iTrain, I think, is placing people in right jobs, right school, right education. I think rightly so, and like what NK has said, hoping to bridge that gap when they get into the employment market ultimately, and hopefully to meet I think all these HR people out there, and half your job is done. I think the assessment is done by us and iTrain, right? Okay, so there you go, Elizabeth. Thanks so much for
Okay.
that 30
Great.
seconds.
Thank you so much for your time, Jimmy, and thank you to all that watched live us today.
Yeah,
And yeah, and a wish to everybody and to you, especially Jimmy, as well, to stay safe amid these
thank you.
crazy times and
Yeah,
do wear masks and try to keep yourself and the others around you safe.